Now, the left versus right rhetoric is only intensifying in the United States. A shooting incident at an ICE facility in Dallas has further fueled this fire, and Donald Trump has accused the left of recent spike in violence. Trump, in his long post on Truth Social, has said, and I'm quoting here, "This violence is the result of the radical left. Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continuing violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped." Now, Vice President J.D. Vance also targeted the left, referring to the ICE facility shooting as, quote, left-wing extremism.
But what we know is that in Dallas, Texas, an ICE facility, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility, was opened fire upon by a violent left-wing extremist, a person who wrote anti-ICE messaging on their bullets. And there's some evidence that we have that's not yet public, but we know this person was politically motivated.
Now, the Republican camp's accusations come after a photo was released by the FBI chief Kash Patel, which shows a bullet marked with words anti-ICE.
This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences.
Authorities are yet to publicly identify the shooter and remark on his motive, but the shooting comes after months of protests and backlash against the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department for arresting and detaining immigrants. ICE has been actively detaining what the agency has identified as illegal immigrants after Trump signed an executive order to carry out what he called the largest deportation in American history. The Democrats have denounced Trump's move, and several leaders have joined protests and rallies calling for an end to immigration detention. But after right-wing commentator Charlie Kirk shooting, political rhetoric against the left has only increased. However, the politics over latest shooting incidents has failed to address a long-standing concern over relaxed gun laws in the U.S., according to the Gun Violence Archive. Over 300 mass shootings have occurred in the U.S. in 2025 so far, but none of them have stirred political debate and rhetoric as much as Kirk's death and the latest shooting at the ICE facility. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us live from New York. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, this latest shooting that has sparked debate once again, Trump hitting back and Trump hitting out at the radical left, that's what he calls them. What is the mood on ground and how is this being perceived?
Ultimately, the temperature has to come down. That's something that everyone seems to agree on. However, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, Ted Cruz, all of these Republican leaders can come out and say whatever they want. But unless and until the Democratic Party's leaders themselves come out explicitly and say that violence against ICE, against law enforcement, is unacceptable, it's hard to imagine that issues like this won't continue. Kristi Noem was saying when you constantly compare the police department or ICE to the modern day Gestapo, then there are going to be individuals that are going to come and try to cause violence. And one is too much. This incident just happens a few weeks after another ICE facility in Texas was targeted. Now the FBI says that it's looking into a potential co-conspirator and a ring regarding that attack, and up to 14 people have been detained. So we still need more information. This 29-year-old was identified. President Trump's comments came after the FBI said that there were anti-ICE messaging on the casing. Ironically, no ICE officials were hurt. It was actually the detainees who were killed and hurt during this incident. Of course, the gunman shoot himself as well. But the mood on the ground, when you ask, everyone agrees that this kind of violence just needs to stop. And also the rhetoric needs to stop. So there won't be insane individuals like this one and the one at Charlie Kirk that'll act upon on these messages that the leaders put out. So it's a tense situation, and it just doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon.
Absolutely, Susan, because that's exactly what I was going to come to. Is the real message being lost somewhere in this rhetoric and this back and forth between the right and the left? And that is gun laws. America needs stricter gun laws, and that's the real question, and that's the real debate. Do you think that message is lost here?
There's the issue of gun laws, but there's also there's also the issue of mental health and pharmaceuticals and the direction that the youth's mental health is going in this country. There is pharmaceutical drugs being pushed on individuals, notably those that are younger. There is the messaging about, cultural messaging that goes around as well. And then, of course, there's the issue of guns. All of these compounded, and then you have the fiery political rhetoric that goes along with it. And you just see that there just seems to be no end in sight. Something needs to be done.
Absolutely, Susan. You've raised some really important issues there as well. Mental health being one that needs to be talked about more often as well. Thank you so much for that, Susan. We'll, of course, continue to monitor the situation closely.